I know that we have been having personal affirmation statements each week. And so I decided today's affirmation should be, when I get out of my own way, Spirit leads me where I need to go. Let's try that one together. Let's just break it up here. Here's the first line. When I get out of my own way, when I get out of my own way, Spirit leads me where I need to go. Spirit leads me where I need to go. One more time with feeling. When I get out of my own way, Spirit leads me where I need. Yes. I didn't do that very well, did I? I'm new at this. Was that a marching band thing? I'm going to say it one time all the way through. Please join me. When I get out of my own way, Spirit leads me where I need to go. Yes. How many people can resonate with that? Have you felt that? Yes. So I'm not alone in that thought. I got to tell you, Originally, I was scheduled to do music today for today's service. Kayleen had contacted me and said, "Hey, can you fill in?" I'm like, "Oh, absolutely, no problem." And then just like maybe a week ago, I get a message from Reverend Kathy, and she says, "Hey, can you also deliver the message while you're there, since you're going to be there anyway?" "Sure, no problem, that's fine." You know, I was extremely honored and very touched and moved that she even asked me to deliver the message this week. And even though I had this huge water pipe break underneath my slab flooring of my house, when she had asked me this, I said, absolutely, I did not hesitate to accept. Of course I will do this. And as the plumbing people were jackhammering a 5-foot deep hole in my living room to find the leaking pipe, I asked Reverend Kathy if there were any specific topics that she thought that maybe I should cover at that particular, this week. And as the workmen were pulling out all of my carpeting and my wood flooring and the kitchen cabinets and the sink, Reverend Kathy says, "Well, whatever you come up with will be the right and perfect thing." So I'm racking my brain. I'm trying to gather some inspiration as the plumbers are telling me that not only is the water supply line spewing out gallons of water underneath my house, but my osmosis water filtering system is leaking, and it's time for me to get a new water softener because it was about to go out. And so I'm even asking my mother, "Mom, what do you think I ought to talk about?" And I'm talking on the phone with her as I hear this drip, drip, drip of rain coming through my ceiling and landing on my couch. And it was at that moment that my mother said, "Why don't you talk about water?" She is so smart. I don't know how she comes up with this stuff, but she is definitely my go-to source when I'm looking for things to talk about. But don't you just love it when Spirit sends you the inspiration that you need right in the moment that you need it? Yeah. I just need to learn how to interpret Spirit's message a little bit sooner, so my bills are not so high at my household projects. It really causes quite a mess in my home, but it is what it is, as they say. And I gotta say, I really do love water. I don't want you to think that I don't love water. In fact, if I were to go on vacation, I would much rather go to an ocean than to a mountain. And I know that both are majestic and both are spiritual, but for me, water is the one thing that shows you its magnificent power in real time. It's hard to watch the movement of a mountain. You got to be really, really patient to see it. But water is right there showing you. It's got that constant ebb and flow of the tide. You can't stop it. It keeps coming and going, and it does its thing. Its persistence, and it can overcome any obstacle. It can reshape the sharpest of rocks into the smoothest of stones. And it can change its form and adapt to any temperature, and we've seen this. It never disappears, which is a really cool thing about water. It can change to ice, it can be water, it can be steam, but it never ceases to exist, which is pretty incredible. It can change its shape to match any container that it's sitting in, and yet it never loses its identity. No matter what shape it is, it's still water or ice or steam. So yeah, I love water. We go way back. But I also fear it, especially with what's been going on in my household. And I realize that I love water when it stays inside the pipes of my house. And I love rain when it stays on top of my roof and goes someplace other than my living room carpet. And to get right down to it, I love water when I can control it. Boy, what a metaphor for life that turns into, huh? How many of us want to control everything in our lives? Oh my gosh, yes. I definitely sense that. I'm even seeing hands in the car. Oh my goodness. Hi everybody in the car. That's not just parked cars, there's people in there. See, I'm new. I'm sorry. I'm just now catching on to the game here. Welcome. I forget what I was talking about. Oh yes, having control. That's what I was talking about. Oh, yes, if we could control water, I would love it a lot better. But as I've recently learned, it's not always possible. And as I was mentioning, water is persistent, and it's resilient, and it's ever-present. It's unyielding, and here's the thing. In the end, water will always win. So maybe, rather than trying to control it, maybe we should try to learn some lessons from it, because I have a feeling it's here to tell us something. Yeah, go with the flow. Is that what we titled this thing? That's actually the title of this sermon. Go with the flow. So, how many of you have experienced a change in plans this year? Anyone? Anyone at all? Yes. Good. That's like some honking there. So that's not just me. Okay, so we've all experienced that. I get it. I've probably mentioned to you in past talks about my love for lists and planning and schedules, and I'm a big Franklin Planner girl. Any other Franklin Planner people out here? Yes, you like to have your journals or something, and in January you got that book out and you wrote down where you were going to be every single month of this year, and now those Franklin planners are probably filled with either whiteout strips or just plain scratched out with pen of all those events that first they were postponed and then they were canceled, so it's like everything's written like 3 or 4 times in your book. Yeah. Or maybe you've become really good with Zoom or with social media programs. And I know that this Facebook Live thing is actually really cool, and I do like Facebook Live. But let's face it, our lives have been turned upside down. And it makes us frustrated, and it makes us scared, and it makes us sad. It makes us downright angry at times. I read, speaking of Facebook, there was a meme that someone had posted, and it said, "Let's throw some candy out the front door, stick a turkey in the oven, open some presents, and call it a year." What a great idea, only if I'm not mistaken, I think I said that last year too, in hopes that this year would be better. And so now I'm a little bit gun shy and thinking that, are we really in a hurry to see what 2021 has to offer? Because I'm not really sure I'm ready to see that. But it's a concept. It's something we could think about. The question is, what could water teach us right now? If you imagine your life is like traveling in a canoe on a river, and up until now, we've been able to navigate our way. Sometimes we want to go downstream. Sometimes you want to go upstream or across the stream. We control our speed. We control and set the tempo for our own journeys. But now, our paddle has been taken away. And all of those emotions start to rise up. I can't go to that huge event that I've been planning, or I can't see my loved ones, or I can't go to school, I can't go to work. Or even more deep down, who am I if I can't do the things that I normally do? What's my identity? And one of the reasons that these emotions come into play is because we are putting yesterday's expectations on today's circumstances. Let me say that again. We are putting yesterday's expectations on today's circumstances. It's as if we're still trying to paddle our canoes on the same route that we were planning on doing at the beginning of the year. We wanted to go upstream a little bit, but now we don't have that paddle anymore. And so we're actually trying to paddle upstream with our hands since we don't have paddles, and it's an overwhelming challenge. You might be able to maintain it for a little while, but in the end, you're going to get tired. And what did we say about water? Water always wins. Now, this reminds me of a story in a book called Illusions. It was written by Richard Bach, who also, Richard, I didn't even say the other title yet. He also wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. You heard that one? Yep. So this book, it's called Illusions, was written back in the 70s. And at the beginning of the book, he shares a story. And it goes like this. Once there lived a village of creatures along the bottom of a great crystal river. The current of the river swept silently over them all, young and old, rich and poor, good and evil. The current going its own way, knowing its own crystal self. Each creature in its own manner clung tightly to the twigs and rocks of the river bottom, for clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current what each had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, "I'm tired of clinging. Though I cannot see it with my eyes, I trust that the current knows where it's going. And I shall let go and let it take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die of boredom." Well, the other creatures laughed and said, "Fool, you let go, and that current you worship will throw you tumbled and smashed across the rocks, and you will die quicker than boredom." But the one heeded them not, and taking a breath, did let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Yet, in time, the creature refused to cling again. The current lifted him free from the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, "See, a miracle, a creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See the Messiah come to save us all." And the one carried in the current said, "I'm no more Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free if only we dare let go. Our true work is this voyage and this adventure." But they cried the more, "Savior," all the while clinging to the rocks. And when they looked again, he was gone. And they were left alone, making legends of a Savior. Richard Bach. Let me ask you this question. Can you give yourself permission to let go and let the current carry you? What if Spirit has been trying to get your attention and it took a pandemic to get you to listen? What is available to you right now? Where is your paddleless boat leading you right now? I shared this idea with my father, who had an excellent question and a bit of a concern. He says, "Well, now that's all fine if the current is carrying you someplace good. But what if the current is carrying you straight to the falls? Would you really go over the falls?" And I thought about it. I said, this is where faith steps in. I'm a firm believer that Spirit has a better vantage point than I do. I mean, I'm just stuck in the boat. What do I know? I can't see. But Spirit can see with a bird's eye view what's coming next. So what if? What if my boat does go towards Niagara Falls? And what if, when it reaches the falls, the boat starts to go over? But what if at that moment I learn that I know how to fly? I would have never left the safety of my own boat unless I was forced to, and therefore would never have discovered my true abilities within. I've realized that it seems that it's only when we hurt that we grow. When we're comfortable and we're happy, we typically don't want to change anything for fear that we're going to rock the boat. But if the boat is rocking to a point of discomfort, we will start making changes in order to steady things again. Spirit clearly has our attention now. So what do we do now that we're tuned in? My favorite line from The Sound of Music, any Sound of Music fans out there? Love Julie Andrews, love, love, love. And one of the lines of that movie, my favorite is, this might not be the exact quote, but something like, when God closes a door, somehow he always opens a window. Does that sound familiar? What I'm inviting you to do today is to stop staring at the closed door and start to look around. What are you being forced to look at in these moments that you were able to ignore in your past life, or at least last January? What totally different opportunities are arising that you've never seen before? Maybe it's that online course that you've been contemplating but just never had time to take. Or maybe it's reaching out to long-lost friends or family on social media that you've been neglecting and have some of those conversations that maybe you've been meaning to have but just couldn't bring yourself around to do. Maybe it's finally cleaning out that garage you've been storing mystery stuff in for the past several years. Anybody? I'm hearing some knowing laughter out there. That's me too. I need to do that myself. I invite you to keep an eye out for those opportunities that are popping up in your world now. They could be clues, so pay attention. And another lesson that we can learn from water comes from Master, let me make sure that I'm saying he's from the Tulane Karate Club, and he is Master Takayuki Makami. And he says, and I quote, "Calm water is like a mirror and gives a picture of all that is around. Troubled waters only reflect the turmoil within. When a person approaches a problem with calm and composure, then, like the reflection on the calm water, he sees everything. So also when a problem causes turmoil, then, like the troubled water, only confusion is seen." When we're faced with the fears of the unknown, it's easy to go into that fight or flight mode, and we become lost in the confusion of troubled water and cannot see all the positive possibilities around us. But I'm asking you to trust the current, to relax your mind and allow the reflection from calm waters to show you the clear picture. I'm asking you to relax and embrace the unknown. That's easier said than done, don't you think? Did you all just kind of all of a sudden tighten up and say, how can I stay relaxed when I'm about to go over Niagara Falls? I mean, that's pretty much what I just asked you to do, isn't it? Well, in the words of my dear friend Jana Stanfield, it takes courage to become the best you that you're here to be. And she often asks, what is your next brave step? What would I do if I knew I could not fail? Do you remember this song? What would you do today if you knew that you could not fail? Who would you be? What was it that you were going to be and then you kind of got lost in the shuffle because of everyday life? But all of a sudden, everyday life has changed for you. all of a sudden it's a blank canvas. That entire Franklin planner is empty right now because there ain't nothing going on other than church on Facebook Live. And we're really glad you're here. What are you using to fill that time, that energy? You are still you. You still exist. You still are here. If I believed would the wind always fill up my sail, how far would I go? What could I achieve? Trusting the hero in me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where true believers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What if we're all meant to do what we secretly dream? What would you ask if you knew you could have anything? Like a mighty oak sleeps in the heart of a seed, are there miracles in you and me? You know there are. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where true believers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? If I refuse to listen to the voice of fear, with the voice of courage whisper in my ear, maybe this is what I'd hear. I am brave enough to move ahead, where true believers dare to tread, and I never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step will I take today, now that I'm brave? What will I do today? I am brave. 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 I am brave. We are so brave. And you know, as you navigate the next chapter in your canoe, you need to remember, trust the current. Stop trying to swim upstream when the current is carrying you exactly where you need to go. And change yesterday's expectations to match your world today. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you all today. And I know that Kathy always does this extremely touching and moving namaste that I would like to replicate as best that I can. The Christ in me truly sees and recognizes the Christ in each and every one of you. Namaste.